Hey, this is Jacob, and in this video, we're going to be going over 10 apps that I use every single day for my language learning. Now, before we jump into the different apps that I'm using, I do want to make a quick disclaimer. These are the apps that I'm using as of June of 2025. So, depending on when you watch this video, I may be using different apps or, things could change because like when it comes to language learning, language learning is a journey, and you're going to go through different phases, and once you reach a certain level in your language, things are going to change. So I just wanted to create that quick disclaimer that this is what I'm using right now. So later on, things could be different. Like new things come out all the time, so some of these apps may no longer be relevant. Like to give you an example, at one point, MySpace was one of the most popular social media platforms out there, but now it's Facebook. Maybe in another 5 or 10 years, a new platform could come out and nobody uses Facebook anymore. So I just want to make it clear here that this is just what I'm using right now, but of course some things could change. But I think anybody could definitely find value in the different apps that I'm using. Like if you've been here for a while, some of these apps might be familiar to you, and some of them I haven't spoken about before on this YouTube channel. So there should be something for everybody here. So with that said, let's go into the first app. So the first app that I use on a daily basis is Duolingo. Like I know, like as of right now, a lot of people kind of have a negative viewpoint of Duolingo because of the whole AI announcement thing. I don't really want to get into that. I do feel like Duolingo is still a pretty solid app to use when it comes to learning languages, and it is worth bearing in mind that Duolingo is one of the world's most popular language learning apps. It currently contains some 43 languages. And my opinion when it comes to using Duolingo, and really just for apps in general, is that you really should use it as sort of a supplement to your language learning journey. Like Duolingo is really good at getting you to listen to your target language, getting you to speak a bit here and there, do some writing. They don't really do a lot as far as like grammar explanation goes. Like it could be a bit sparse, so you may want to look elsewhere if you really want to get a good grasp of the grammar of your language. But it does teach you a bit in regards to that. Now, in my personal experience, I've used Duolingo for completing the Esperanto, Spanish, and French. I've already completed the Esperanto course, and currently I'm working through the Spanish and the French course at the same time. So the way that I do that is first I'll focus on the French course. What I like to do is I like to complete at least half a unit per day in Spanish and French. So I'll do half of the unit in French, and then I'll switch over to the Spanish course and I'll work on half a unit there. So, every 2 days I end up completing an entire unit for Spanish and French. And on average, that takes me like around 50 minutes per day, like depending on like the size of the unit. Some are a little bit more challenging than others. So, that also is a factor. So yeah, like I think this is a really solid app to use on a daily basis. Like I said, it's already extremely popular, and it's very likely that it has a language that you're studying on there because it has over 40 languages. So with that said, we're going to move over into the next app. So the next app that I use on a daily basis currently is called Anki. So Anki is what's known as an SRS app, and SRS just stands for Space Repetition System. So the way that it works is like Anki is basically a platform where you can go and you can add digital index cards into the platform, and you can use that to study just about anything that you like. A lot of people in medicine, like medical students, use it, but it's also very popular in language learning as well, like especially if you want to like learn like words in your language. So it's really good for memorizing new vocabulary. So just to give you like a very basic idea of how the space repetition system works, like as you start using the app, what Anki is going to do, automatically through the algorithm, is that they're going to show you like words that you find a lot more harder, like more often, and words that are easier for you less often. So that way you could be more efficient in how you study. You could focus on the parts where you're weak at, while the things that you have an easier time with, you don't see those as often. And another thing that's cool about Anki is that it's mostly free. Like you can use it on their website. There's a desktop application you can get for it. There's also it's also available on iOS as well as Android. But I should mention though that the iOS version is about $25 if I'm not mistaken. So the thing is that's only a one-time price, and after you pay for it, you can have it and you can just use it to your heart's content. But the Android version is completely free. But apart from that, it's basically free. And another thing too is that since so many people use Anki, it has a very robust community, and they have what's known as shared decks. So you can go on Anki's website and you can look for a shared deck in the target language that you're learning, whether that's like French, Spanish, Esperanto, or what have you. And you can download that deck. You can import it into your own Anki software, and from there you can start studying you can start studying the deck and just start studying the words. But I mean, if you don't want to do that, you're also more than welcome just to create your own deck, which is what a lot of language learners recommend. Like especially once like the first like couple of hundred or maybe the thousand words or so, you could do something called sentence mining, where you can consume content, whether that's like reading a book or like watching a video, and you could take words that you find interesting and you can import that into your Anki deck, so that way you can study them later. So yeah, so this is definitely another app, another excellent app to consider. The next thing that I use, it's what's called an Amazon Kindle. Now, Kindle is both a physical device as well as an app, and it just so happens that I have on both of them. So I definitely make good use of my Kindle device. But I mean, if you don't have like the actual device as well, which is excuse me, which I would highly recommend getting, like if you have the extra money, I mean, you could just download the app from the App Store. You can just use it from there. So one of the things that I really like about Kindle is that you can upload any of your own files onto the Kindle and you can just read them from there. So if you have a PDF of a book that you're reading in your target language, and if you want to just keep it all in one place, you can just upload it to the Kindle platform, and from there, you can read it wherever you have your Kindle app installed. Now there is a size limit to how big of a file that you can upload on there, but it's a pretty generous limit. I don't know it off the top of my head, but yeah, you can just upload files on there. And also Kindle itself, of course, has a massive selection of books. So you could just go on Amazon's website, and you can look for books in your target language, and from there you can just purchase it and you could just begin reading it from there. Now currently I use Kindle primarily for reading and in Esperanto, but I do plan on using it at some point for French and Spanish as well. I mean, it just so happens that I'm currently the most advanced in my Esperanto, where I'm at a point where I can read somewhat leisurely in Esperanto, but I'm not quite at the same level as of right now for Spanish or French. But trust me, once I get to that level, I will definitely be using it for Spanish or French for my reading as well. So that's that. Moving on to the next app is the Refold Tracking App. Now, I've already made an entire video dedicated to going over this app, but just to put it in a nutshell, this is an app that you can use to track your language learning. So it doesn't necessarily like directly help you per se with learning a language, not something like a Duolingo or like an Anki or something like that, where you're learning the language, but it just helps you with tracking your language. So you can track as many languages as you want in Refold. Currently it is in beta testing, but you can like track as many languages as you like, and you have a ton of different languages available. Another thing that they have as well that's built into the app is that you can go and you can design habits to help you develop specific skills in your target language. So to give you an example of that, for Esperanto, one of the places that I want to focus on right now is developing my speaking skills. So I went and I created a habit called speaking improvement, and from there I make sure that I dedicate a certain amount of time each day to doing activities that's going to help me with improve my speaking, whether that's like singing or like talking to myself or like doing shadowing, things like that, where I can go and I can make sure that I'm focusing on that each day. And then over time, as I can continue putting more time to my speaking, like my speaking is going to improve. They also have a bunch of different ports and charts built into the app as well. So from there, you can sort of like analyze your trends of like how you go about your studying. See like excuse me, see like what you've been focused on within like the last 30 days or so, and also as well as just spot any patterns. Like if you're notice like in your language learning that you're struggling in certain areas within one or more of your target languages, you can look at the reports, see like what you've been doing to focus on that, or maybe what you haven't been doing, and you can just make those necessary adjustments. So I'll try and link a video to the full video that I did on the Refold tracking app, because I don't want to like kind of go over every single detail here, but it's definitely a great app. Like, even if you don't use the Refold Tracking app, I definitely recommend like having some sort of app that you use, to track your language learning progress. Because it's nice to have something that's like sort of objective where you can look and you could just kind of see the numbers going up. Because if you don't track it, then it can be kind of hard to like figure out like exactly like how far you've come along like in your language learning journey. But I do know tracking isn't for everybody, but I would highly recommend giving it a try just to see if it's something that you like. So, moving on to the next app is an app called Clozemaster. So, for Clozemaster, basically the idea behind it is that you are learning languages in context. So, the way that it works is you're given a sentence in your target language in Clozemaster, and there's a word that's missing. And your goal is that you need to figure out what is the missing word in your target language. And as you do that, and as you work through these tests, like by the hundreds and by the thousands, you're able to slowly build up your vocabulary, and you're able to develop a sort of sixth sense for your language, so to speak, because you've been exposed to so many different words and so many different contexts, and it just helps to build that mental model of the language in your mind. They currently support over 50 languages, and they have a bunch of different language pairing options as well. Just to give you one example, so they have a pairing option where your let's say your target language, let's say your native language is English, and you wanted to learn Esperanto, so it will be from English to Esperanto. But they also have another pairing as well, where let's say your native language is Spanish, and you want to learn Esperanto, so you can do like a Spanish to Esperanto. Now, it just so happens that I'm studying both Spanish and Esperanto, so something that I've been doing recently is I've been doing the pairing from Spanish to Esperanto, and by doing that, it allows me to study Spanish and Esperanto at the same time. So, just wanted to throw in a little tip there that you could definitely have fun with this. They also do have a listening feature for some of the languages as well. So I study Spanish, French, and Esperanto on Clozemaster. And for Spanish and French, they do have a listening feature. So I can listen to the sentence before I see the sentence, so that can help you with working on your listening skills in your target language. I will say though that when it comes to Clozemaster, like it's really ideal for people that are advanced beginners or an intermediate learner. So if you're someone who's just starting out in your target language, I would not recommend using Clozemaster just yet. Like, you should know at least like a few hundred, maybe 1,000 words or so in your target language, like the most common words, of course. And then from there, like once you start to develop a foundation within your target language, and like a decent amount of words, then Clozemaster is going to become a lot more useful for you. But yeah, this is definitely not something I would recommend using if if you're just starting out. Your target language. So moving on to the next app is YouTube, so which is funny because you're actually watching this on YouTube right now. So, getting a little meta there for a second. So one of the great things about YouTube is that they have a massive library of videos. And there are many different languages on YouTube, like this bunch of like English videos, if you want to learn English. But if you're watching this video, I'm assuming you already know English, or you at least you're at a very high level. They also have they have Spanish, they have French, they actually have a surprising amount of content in Esperanto, even though Esperanto, isn't an artificial language, and it's not as big as like Spanish or French. There's actually a pretty decent amount of content on there, so that is something to consider. And of course, they have a bunch of other languages as well, like Japanese, Portuguese, so another thing that too when it comes to YouTube is I do have the premium plan as well. Basically that just gives you an ad-free experience, so if you plan on using YouTube a lot, like it's going to get kind of annoying if you have to constantly like sit through ads, like one, two, three different ads, like while you're like watching a video. It can kind of like ruin the experience for a bit, especially if you're trying to use YouTube as a way to like sort of like immerse in your language. So I would highly recommend getting the premium plan, like if you have the extra money. So that way, you can just say like totally zone in and totally focus on the language, and you don't have to worry about ads disrupting your viewing experience. And another thing too about YouTube is that it has a really great recommendation algorithm. So this is what you'll see like on your homepage, like when you first log into YouTube. Now, I would highly recommend like you create a separate account for whatever your target language is. So let's say if you want to like learn Spanish, you should have a separate account that's only where you watch Spanish videos. And what you want to do to just kind of get the algorithm kicking off, so to speak, is you want to go and you want to find videos in your target language. Find something that you find interesting. Watch a decent amount of it. Maybe give it a like. Subscribe to the channel, like if the channel is about different about a topic that you like, And over time, like as you go and you like interact on that new account, YouTube is going to start to pick up on like what types of videos that it should show you or what you're going to find interesting, and it'll serve that up to you to your home feed. Now, it does take a while for it to like sort of like kind of get into a rhythm of what to show you, but once it does, like you'll constantly just have a stream of content that will be interesting to you, in your target language. So, that's that in regards to YouTube. Next app that I use on a daily basis is known as Telegram. So I will say though, like just as a little caveat, that I use this primarily for Esperanto. And one thing that's pretty interesting is that there's actually a ton of different chat rooms in Esperanto on Telegram. I'm not sure why Esperanto like kind of found a home on Telegram, but in any case, there are a bunch of chat rooms, a bunch of places where you can go and you could just connect with other Esperanto speakers. Now, it's a very privacy focused messenger app. They use very strong encryption, so you're able to go and use the app and be safe in knowing that you don't have to worry about your information like getting leaked out, so to speak. And another thing too is that it can be accessed on any device. So of course, you can use it on your phone, but you also can use it like on your web browser as well. So that's another thing that's pretty nice about it. Like it's very much your typical messaging app. Also another thing too is like you don't have to like share your phone number. You can just use like a username that you have specially for the app. And of course you can go and you can create your own chat room, if that's something that you're into. And it's free to use. You can never go wrong with free. But yeah, like I said, like for this one, I primarily use it for Esperanto. But I mean, I'm sure there's probably chat rooms out there for Spanish and French as well, if I take a look around there. But like I said, this is mostly an Esperanto thing for me. Moving on, the next app that I use, like I'm basically on a daily basis, is Discord. So this is another app which is for like building and just connecting with communities. There's actually another thing interesting too about Discord is that there are tons of like different language learning servers, like Discord servers, where you can go, you can connect with other people that are also interested in learning languages. So just a few examples. You have from Refold. They have a Discord server. Evil Dia. There's also a Discord server that's specially dedicated to Esperanto. And there are probably tons of others. In fact, I even have my own Discord server for language learning. So there's a bunch of places where you can just go and you can just congregate with other people that are just interested in language learning. Another thing too is that you can go and you can join impromptu voice chats. Now this is something that I have experience in when it comes to Esperanto. But yeah, like obviously, like when it comes to language, like one of the main competencies when it comes to being able to speak a language well is like literally like speaking a language, like making words like come out of your mouth, so that way the other person understands, and then you have like a sort of back and forth conversation with that person. So you can always like hop on a quick chat with someone. You can speak with them. Hopefully, a native speaker. They can correct you speaking, and yeah, like it's a bit more dynamic, so to speak, compared to just like doing like text chatting. But of course, like they have a text chatting feature as well. And if you feel inclined to create your own server, you can do that as well. It just takes a few seconds, and from there, you can just start to build your own community. But yeah, it's completely free to use. And yeah, I definitely highly recommend using it if you're someone that's like I'm into language learning. So, the next app that we're going to be going over is called Pocket Cast. So, Pocket Cast, like you might be able to guess, is related to listening to podcasts. So, one thing that's cool about Pocket Cast is that it is supports some cross device syncing. So, you could be using it on your phone, but but let's say later on, if you want to use it on your computer, you could just log in, and from there, you could just pick up where you left off with the app. Another cool feature that they have, and this is something I use quite a bit, is what they have what's known as an auto skip feature, and you could set this to every like podcast that you listen to. So the thing is, like some podcasts, like what they do is like they'll have like a commercial or like an ad break that plays for like the first 10, 20 seconds or what have you. And you can go and you could create a setting where you can skip like the first 10 or the first 20 seconds of the episode. So that way, you can skip past that. You can just get into the content. And you can also do that for the end as well. Like if at the end, they just have like an ad that's playing or whatever, you could say like, all right, I just want to skip the last like 10, 15, 20 seconds or what have you. So that way, like on once you get through all in the meat of the content, you can just move on to the next episode. So that's something that's pretty cool. Another thing too is that they have a feature where they can automatically trim the silence in the episode. So if there are like a lot of like awkward silences like in the episode, you can just get past that and you can just get to the part where the people in the podcast are just talking again, and it gets you back into like that whole immersive environment. Another thing that's cool too is that now this is a paid feature, unfortunately, but you can organize your podcast in a folder. So the way that I did this is like, obviously I'm studying, Spanish, French, and Esperanto, and I have different folders for each of the podcasts, for each of the languages I listen to. So I have a folder for French, I have a folder for Spanish, and I have a folder for Esperanto. Because prior to having that, like when I had the free plan, like I had like a bunch of different podcasts that I was like subscribed to, and it was getting a little big and it was getting a little bit unruly. So the a paid plan is actually pretty cheap. I think it's only like a few dollars a month, but from there, it gives you the feature where where you can sort your podcasts into folders, and it just makes everything looks a lot more neater. Another thing too is they do have a also for the it's a paid feature as well, where you can have a transcript that you can read of the episode. So like you could just pull that up. It's AI generated, so if you want to like listen as well as read at the same time, they have that feature as well. So it's pretty cool. But I mean, if you want to just keep things like on relatively low cost, the free plan should have mostly everything that you need. And last but not least, the last app that I use on a daily basis is an app on my phone called Recorder. So as the name implies, I just use it for recording my voice. So depending on what phone you have, whether you have like iOS, if you have an iOS phone, then it might be like called something different. But on Android, like it's known as Recorder, and I use this for recording my voice while I'm talking to myself. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, one of my focuses this year with Esperanto is just on the work on improving my speaking. So I'll go and I'll talk to myself for like about 10 minutes, and then I'll record my voice as I'm talking to myself. So one thing that's cool about recording yourself is that you can use this to assess your grammar, your pronunciation, as well as your fluency, which is all, very important things. So if you can listen back, you can notice like where you're doing well, what are some areas that kind of need some improvement, and you could just make those next adjustment. You can make those adjustments accordingly. And also, last but not least, when it comes to recording yourself, especially if you're doing it on a consistent basis, over time you can start to compare those recordings, and you can see like how you progress over time, which can be extremely motivating. Like you can listen to like some of your early recordings, and you can notice like all of these mistakes and how unrefined that you were. But then once you listen to the later recordings after you have been doing it for a while, like you'll be able to see like very much like you'll have this proof, so to speak, where you'll see how much you've improved and how much you've gotten better at the language that you're working on. So that could be extremely motivating, and that could really just help to just keep you going when it comes to your language learning. So yeah, so that's all I have today in regards to the 10 apps that I use. So I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video, but I just wanted to say that I have this in no particular order. So you know these I just kind of put this in just sort of a random order, so to speak. So yeah, like I'm not suggesting that you have to use every single app here, but I mean I definitely recommend like checking out like one or two or a few of them and see like if it fits. In regards to your language learning journey. Now, if you have like any apps that you use on a daily basis that I haven't mentioned in this video, definitely feel free to make a comment down below in the comment section. And share that app. I would be very interested in seeing like what other apps some people use on a daily basis. Like maybe there's something I should consider using, or maybe I can replace one of the apps that I have listed here in this video. So yeah, so if you enjoyed this content, if you want to stay tuned to what I got going on here, I would definitely appreciate it. If you guys subscribe, and if you tap the bell icon, you'll be notified as soon as I release new content on this channel. This is Jacob Laguerre. I'm signing off, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.